Hello BookTube. Today on my 2023 library tour, I'll be talking about the manga on the headboard. My headboard has two shelves where I store various books, mostly mass market or slightly larger paperbacks. The books that I've put on there have changed from an assortment of mass markets to manga to the reaction science, the reaction animal series, and it's back to manga. And I'll talk a bit more about that as I wrap up this shelf. But first, I'm going to discuss the towers of books that I use as sort of bookends for the manga on the top shelf. So the first tower includes Nicholas and Alexandra by Robert K. Massey. This is a double of one of Robert K. Massey's great books. And this one's the spare that I'm going to get rid of eventually. Next up is Middle Game by Shauna McGuire. This is a contemporary epic fantasy about two binaristic twins who are key ingredients to a mad alchemist's goal to become God. I read this shortly after it came out and didn't like it, and I've been meaning to get rid of it for a while. So hopefully I will send it on its way in the not too distant future. Another book I didn't quite get on with is Sins of Empire by Brian McClellan. This is the first volume in the Gods of Blood and Power series. No, Gods of Blood and Powder. This is the first volume in the sequel series to the Powder Mage series, which is McClellan's first series. I read it shortly after it came out, about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was okay, and while I did toy with collecting the series and the previous series, I've long since changed my mind on that, and I do want to get rid of it because, I haven't read it, and I have no interest in going back to it, and I don't want to pick up the rest of the series, so it'll go on its way eventually, too. I just don't know how. The next two books are by Clive Barker. First up is Imagica. I've wanted to read this for a while, but I've never gotten around to doing it. And I picked it up because it was like 25 cents. And this one here was jerk cheap too. This is Everville, also by Clive Barker. I don't know much about it. I just picked it because it was 25 cents. So if I don't get to it in the near future, which I don't know if I will, I'll probably put them in a library donation box since I both got them from the library. Anyway, so my local library had for years, I think they probably still do, they have a little nook at the Westwaco Library that has sell books that usually aren't all that great a quality, but yeah, they're cheap, so I picked quite a few up. This is the Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, 10th edition. I've had this since college, but I really don't use it anymore. I just use it as largely a bookend for this headboard bookcase. And that will likely change depending how I want to do this, which I might talk about at the end. And finally, this is Hans Christian Andersen's Fairy Tales, which I originally picked up for Pestilence, one of my nieces. I used the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse as code names for the four older nieces and nephews. So my nieces are Famine and Pestilence, and my nephews are War and Death. But anyway, so I originally intended to give this to Pestilence, but I never did get around to giving it to her. But I really should at least break down and read it myself. And then maybe either move it to somewhere else in my collection or pass it on, even though it's not in great shape. moving on to the other side of the um, headboard bookcase, or to the other side of the tower. The books on the other side, acting as bookends, are Knife of Dreams by Robert Jordan. It's book 11 of The Wheel of Time. I have quite a few of these books. The others are serving a similar function at the tail end of my classics, canonical, modern, contemporary fiction, poetry, drama, which I'll be getting to next Friday if everything goes according to plan. I haven't gotten around to reading any of them yet. I think I read one of the late middle ones ages ago, and I don't quite remember what I thought of it. But if I don't get to them soon, I really should pass them along as well. And then I have The Last Magicians by John Jakes, which I don't really know much about. Um, really should get on to this one. And if not, pass it on. The same goes for Redwall by Brian Jacks. The Star Kings by Edmund Hamilton. And The Time of the Dark by Barbara Hambly. Okay, now the manga series that is sort of bookended by these two towers of books is The Seven Deadly Sins by Nakaba Suzuki. The Seven Deadly Sins is a shonen manga series about a young woman named young princess named Elizabeth, although she's in her late teens, whose father has been overthrown by a an order of superhuman knights called the Holy Knights, who have become increasingly tyrannical in their rule and are preparing for a holy war. Princess Elizabeth goes in search of the Seven Deadly Sins, a rival order of superhuman knights who 10 years previously were accused of assassinating the chief holy knight at the time, as well as trying to overthrow the kingdom. Elizabeth finds the leader of the Seven Deadly Sins, and together they go and search for and bring together the rest of the group, the other six, and take back the kingdom, which they do in the first 14 or so volumes. And then from there, a new threat arises as the current leaders of the Holy Knights eventually do succeed in their plan to unseal the demon race. And so the next major arc, of which I'm currently in the process of reading about, is the invasion of the Ten Commandments, an elite force of demons. But anyway, so this is volume 1. Volume 2. Volume 3. Volume 4. Volume 5. Volume 6. Volume 7. Volume 8. Volume 9. Volume 10. Volume 11. Volume 12. Volume 13. Volume 14. Volume 15. Volume 16. volume 17, and volume 18. So there are 44 volumes in total, so I still got quite a ways to go if I ultimately decide I do still want to collect the entire series. Um, anyway, now moving on to the second shelf on this bookcase, which would help if I move the camera in a more appropriate direction. And probably move this down some. So I might not be coming back from this. So anyway, let's readjust things and see how this looks. I'm not going to take all of the books from here because it's going to be a hassle. Because this here makes this shelf fairly inconvenient unless they are mass market paperbacks, because this here, particularly right here and on, make it difficult to pull out the books. I do want to try to remove it, but I don't exactly know how. So, yeah. But right now, this second shelf contains all of Sylvester Reservoir Chronicle by Clamp and Full Metal Alchemist. So, Sylvester Reservoir Chronicle by Clamp is, well, is Clamp's big crossover manga. It try to adjust myself better. Hopefully you can still hear me, since I'm not actually on camera for this part. But anyway, so previous to Sylvester Reservoir Chronicle, Clamp had a number of popular series: Cardcaptor Sakura, X, and a few others. And Sylvester Reservoir Chronicle like matches up the others in a crossover series that also at times crosses over with a concurrent series running at the same time as Sylvester did, called X-Holic. So I started my reading with Clamp by reading Cardcaptor Sakura, and then all that there is of X. X has never quite been finished. And then I started on Sylvester, which is again a crossover in which a variance of Seorin and Sakura, who are the main characters of Cardcaptor Sakura, are basically, it's about Seorin Lee, who in this case is a young archaeologist who is in love with Princess Sakura. And one day during a dig, mysterious forces unleashed that wounds Sakura, and Seorin must go dimension hopping with companions Kurogane and Faye and Makona to sort of collect her feathers, bits of her soul memory, to sort of restore her. I initially read the first about half of the series, maybe a little bit more, but I never finished it until this past year when I finished collecting the whole series. So I have volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way through 21. And these, I want to say they're Tinkerbon editions, which is basically, I think, the first collection. But I could be wrong. I don't know quite what the American sort of publication Japanese and equivalents are. I mean, they're all called graphic novels here, but I don't think that quite works. And then I have volumes 23, 24, and 25 individually. And then I have in a 3. Well, the first one is 3 and 1, but the other two are 2 volumes. I have volume 8, 9, and 10 of the bind up, or omnibus editions. Because I can never find volumes 22, or 26 through 28. I think there are 28 total volumes of Tsubasa. So, yeah. And I do have the missing volumes in my Libris wish list, but I don't know if I'm actually ever going to really make an effort to find them. Because now that I've read Tsubasa Retro Chronicle, my interest in actually picking up the rest of Clam is sort of non-existent right now. But anyway, moving, on to Full Metal Alchemist. I'm going to move this camera over, and then I'll be back in a second. Against the picture. Okay, so over on this side of the this shelf, I have all of Full Metal Alchemist. So I have volumes 1 through 27. So Full Metal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa is one of my favorite manga series. It's one of the greatest manga series of the last 20 years, I think. I mean, it's about two brothers, Edward and Alphonse Elric, who are prodigy alchemists. One day they perform human transmutation, a forbidden alchemical transmutation, in an attempt to resurrect their deceased mother. The transmutation fails. Edward loses a leg. Alphonse loses his body to save Alphonse's life. Edward sacrifices an arm to transcribe Alphonse's soul onto a suit of armor. After receiving automail prosthetics, which are prosthetics that fully mimic like human the biological functionality of those limbs, Edward becomes a state alchemist, going by the moniker Full Metal Alchemist. After he becomes a state alchemist, which puts him under military authority, he and his brother Alphonse go in search of the Philosopher's Stone, an alchemical artifact reputed to be able to bypass the laws of transmutation, or the law of equivalent exchange, so that they could basically gain their missing body parts and Alphonse's entire body. As the brothers search for the Philosopher's Stone, they discover the horrible truth about the Philosopher's Stone, as well as uncover a long-running and foundational conspiracy affecting their home country of Amestris that goes all the way to the top. And both brothers, along with a number of their allies, are important ingredients, important sacrifices for the villains' promised day. And I read all of Full Metal Alchemist in September and loved it. And I do want to keep this series, but although I do want to change up some of the editions, I want to keep them in these editions. I know there's an omnibus edition, and they just released like a hardcover version. Although I think that one's has more than just one volume in each one. But I like these editions, and I want to keep them. I just want to switch out the ones that are X-Logger copy style. Volume 2, 5, 8, 11, and 25 I would like to switch out. In 23 I want to switch out too, because that one came a bit damaged. But anyway, gonna move you real quick. That was the manga on the Headboard. And that concludes week 1 of my 2023 library tour. Hopefully this video was not too annoying since my headboard is rather inaccessible as a bookcase.
most all the time, which is probably why, in a way, the books on it are really, in a way, are not necessarily ones that I go to all the time. So I need to really rethink this bookcase, for lack of a better term, and decide what I probably want to do with all of them. Because I know I'm thinking about, because I'm not sure if I want to keep Tsubasa long term. I know, like I mentioned earlier, I do have, I did want to collect all of Clamp at one point, but I don't anymore. And I don't know necessarily if once I finish off the Seven Deadly Sins, if I would want to keep that too, that series as well. I'm not sure. And I'll talk a bit more about that later this evening with weekly reads, because I did read volumes 16 and 17 this past week, and yeah, I don't know. I'll talk about it then. But anyway, so next week I will be devoted to classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, drama on the library tour. I'm hoping to finish that whole thing in a week, and then it'll be on to science fiction and fantasy, which I hope to do within 2 weeks. Because I'm going to try to blitz those books, and then finish off with history and manga somehow. Okay, anyway. So that's all I got for now. I'm going to go ahead and upload this and see you later this evening with a weekly read. So until then, thank you, BookTube. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.